Good afternoon, Crosdale Village residents. My name is Rebecca Marion, and I'm the Associate Executive Director. I want to welcome you to the second Resident Roundtable for our Dementia Planning Program here at Crosdale Village. In normal circumstances, I would be with you in person, but unfortunately, with the communication and the changing of the schedules and trying to make sure that we got this in as soon as possible, I overlooked a personal engagement to support my daughter at the same time that this meeting was rescheduled to. I did not realize that until this weekend when discussing the schedule with my husband. So I do apologize with that, but I want to make sure that you are hearing from me in support of this program, and also make sure that you know that I am fully behind our directors. So I thought that if I started the program and made this recording, that would be the second best to having me here in person. But I am leaving you in great hands with very competent directors that I love working with. And I just want to say I had a meeting with them yesterday, and just the excitement and the ownership and the vision that they have come up with for this program is exciting. And I hope that you feel that same preparation and that excitement as they speak with you as we go through this meeting today. But I did want to explain why I was not here in person. For those of you that are returning, and this is your second meeting, thank you for staying engaged and coming back so that we can follow this process through. Our first meeting was back in January 30th, and it was very helpful to have an open dialogue with our residents to really hear what their needs are and what they are hoping that we can program here at Crosdale Village. For those of you that are new and may have heard about us through the months or maybe couldn't make the first meeting, I do want to say welcome. This is important, and I know that it's important to you. I also know that it's a challenge to even maybe be here today because of your caregiving responsibilities and things that you are carrying. Please know that we are here with you, and we are here to help fix this concern and fix this problem. And this is a safe space. It is helpful for whatever information that you all can give us, and we are taking that seriously. We're going to go back through the timeline so that you can see where we've been and where we are and where we're heading. But we did take time in between January and this meeting to meet as a team, and that meeting happened in March. So I want to make sure that everybody is aware of that we're not going from the end of January to the beginning of May with no meeting in between. But we did have that meeting in March, and like I said earlier, I'm super excited with where our directors are taking this program, and I hope that today is helpful for you to be updated with the program, but also to help us move this program forward. At this time, I want to go over our agenda for today so that you know where we are headed. We are going to introduce everybody that is on this planning committee. We did that last time, but we also have added a director in between meetings, and also it's always a good reminder to put a face with a name. So we're going to go over that. We are going to revisit our objective to make sure that we are centering our conversation around that objective. We're going to review the project timeline. Again, like I said, where we were, where we are, and where we're headed so that you know what to expect. I am going to review a summary of the brainstorming ideas that you as a resident group gave to us in January, just to remind you of where we are, and for those that are new, that you kind of can see the background of what your co-residents have given to us. At the end, we will have resident feedback for that to add anything that we may have missed, but we are going to talk about those ideas. Then we are going to go into Crosdale Village responses. So at this point, or at that point in the presentation, I am going to turn it over to our directors to address the ideas that were given in January. Then we are going to transition into more of an open forum in the roundtable format to have you tell us, are we headed in the right direction? Did we capture what you are truly wanting to see from this program? Are we totally off base? That is okay. We want to make sure that we are checking in periodically through this program build, because we don't want to get to the end of the program and then find out that we didn't meet the expectation of the residents. And we want to make sure that we are creating a viable program and one that can be executed well. And that is where we are headed for today. At this time, we are going to review those that are a part of the resident services team. And team, as I call your name and your position, if you will stand so the residents can put a name with a face, that would be great. As we started off the presentation, my name is Rebecca Marion, and I am the Associate Executive Director. We also have Margie Pasher, who is our Director of Wellness. And then we have one of our newest directors, Janae Burwell, who is our Life Enrichment Director. Sarah Stranero, who joined us back in September. She is our Director of Home Care and Navigation. Mandy Mazzell is on our chaplaincy team. Lori Leathers is one of our navigators, and she does the first and second floor, most of the second floor of Homestead, as well as the park homes and that side of campus. Then we have Megan Dungan, who is also one of our navigators. She does the other part of the second floor and third floor of Homestead, and the opposite side of campus. So Aldersgate, Barrett's Chapel, Davison Drive, all of those. And then we have Lori Kaufman with us, our Director of Chaplaincy Services. And Laura Plant has been an integral part of this program as well. She is currently not at work. She is out of the country. And so she will be back next week, but I'm sure that most of you are aware of who Laura is, and just an appreciation for how her thought process works and her contributions to this program. Our objective of this program was very key, to make sure that not only were we capturing what the residents were wanting, but really laser focusing on what the need was and how we want to show commitment to making sure that we are hitting the mark on the expectation. So at this time, I'm going to read that objective. Crowsdale Village is committed to continually assessing and addressing the evolving needs of our residents, particularly those experiencing cognitive changes such as Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia. To support this goal, we are facilitating an open discussion in the form of a roundtable with individuals who serve as the primary caregivers for loved ones living with cognitive impairments. This dialogue will help us better understand their experiences and ensure that our staffing resources and physical environment are aligned with the needs of both residents and caregivers. And we hope that that still rings true. If there are ways that we can adjust that objective towards the end of the presentation, we ask that you give us that feedback, again, because in most projects you have a goal, and this objective serves as that goal, and that is what we are striving for. But if that needs to change at any time and that's not on the pathway of what the residents thought we were headed, we want to make sure that we are adjusting as we come. Our team reviewed this again before this presentation, and it still rings true for us, but we want to make sure that that is still the goal of our residents. So the next two slides are going to talk about our program timeline. And I like doing this just so that we can see where we've been and really track how much work is put in. And when we were talking about this as a group, everybody agreed with that. But one of the things is that there's no way that we could capture the amount of work that has gone into this program thus far in the tiny boxes that are on this screen. But I do want to make sure that you all are aware of what our efforts are, and then also forecasting what to expect so that we can set that expectation as we are still in the program build. So this first slide is everything up until today. So January 30th was our first roundtable that we held here in this room, and that included residents and the Crowsdale Village team that we just introduced 2 slides ago. Secondly is March 24th, 2025 is when we met as a team. So everybody that was on that slide, and then we added Craig Lloyd for the communication part, was to meet and really discuss what the feedback was and how we could take that feedback and turn it into a strategic plan. And then the third block is May 1st, which is today. And that is the second resident team discussion. So you'll kind of see a theme. We're meeting with you all, and then we're debriefing as a team to figure out how to do that, and then we're following up with you all. And you'll see that being the same pattern as we have in the second slide. So in this slide, we are forecasting where we're going. And there are some to be determined dates on here because we are still dealing with moving targets, but there is a specific attachment to what those dates will be. And first off, we want to be able to set a date for a soft launch. And you will see what we're going to do with that soft launch later in the presentation, and then we'll bring it back at the end. But once we narrow down our 2-day-a-week program is where we're starting, we want to run a trial run. And what that will be is we will do that for 4 weeks, where we have the programming in place and you are bringing your loved one to us, or maybe dropping them off or whatever have you. But at the end of that 4 weeks, we want to bring you all back and kind of debrief on how that 4 weeks went. What went really well? What do you think is not working well? How did your loved one adjust to that event? Was the staffing appropriate? All of those things that go into evaluating a program. We don't really think that you could do that in a week or two. And so we wanted to have at least 8 sessions where we were in and out on a regular basis for you to see how your loved one was responding to that. And then we also could give you feedback in return to say how it went while we were interacting with your loved one. Were they social? Did they seem engaged? Was it, appropriate within like minds as we're working with those with cognitive challenges? So that is what is planned. Right now, we're looking at August being the month for that soft launch. We have a few more calendar changes to kind of look at, as well as getting through the summer months where residents are on vacation or staff members are on vacation or whatever. We want to make sure that we are setting everybody up for success. And so August seems to be the sweet spot for that. The reason that August date is not on that block is just because we just determined that yesterday, and we want to make sure that we have everything in line for that to be August. But you will get more communication as we get closer to that. June 14th, some of our team members, I think 2 or 3 of this current team, and then we have 3 more people from the healthcare side that will be going to the Cypress of Charlotte, which is a CCRC, just like ours. who actually has this program. And you're going to hear more from Sarah Stranero on this program, but they are having a dementia workshop for staff members. And we are also trying to double that visit to observe their program. They have a program in their independent living, and I don't want to steal Sarah's thunder because she's done a lot of work on that, so she will tell you about that. But we are trying to use that as a way to observe a program in action as well as receive training. So that will happen around June 14th. That date is the day of the training. My guess is that we will either go a day before or stay a day after to do the program observation. And then lastly, we will have another resident roundtable, and that will be a discussion of the soft launch experience and adjustments. If block 1 happens in August, then most likely block 2 will happen in September. That is the goal, is it would happen a month after the soft launch. If that soft launch changes to September, then in regular fashion, the last roundtable would happen in October. I said last, but I mean the next roundtable. We'll probably still be having roundtables within a year, just as we are adjusting programs. But I wanted to lay out that pathway so that you knew what to expect and where we were headed in a strategic planning type of scenario. Okay, at this time, the next 3 slides are going to go over what you gave us. And for those that gave us the ideas, it's a reminder for what you recommended during that first roundtable. And for those that are new, just kind of sit with this and read through if you resonate with what their goals were. And again, there will be an opportunity at the end for us to adjust these or to add additional ideas. So the summary broke down into 5 major categories based off of your feedback. So the number 1 need is you are asking for help, and that comes in the form of respite programming. So what does that mean, and how is that different? We cannot have an adult day program here on campus for a couple of reasons. One is it is another regulatory license that would need to be applied for. Currently, we have 5 regulatory licenses that we manage on campus, and that is not something that we have the capacity to kind of absorb at this point. But secondly, space, and thirdly, staffing. So what we are looking at is something that will provide a few hours a day or a few hours within a week that will allow the caregiver to either breathe or run errands or participate in more activities that are suited for them. Go to the grocery store without having to manage a spouse or a partner at the same time. Go get your hair cut. Go, do something that rejuvenates you. So what that looks like is the request was for 2 to 3 days a week for a few hours. The residents asked that the programs be safe, engaging. It's not a babysitting program. We are wanting to speak to their strengths and make sure we are utilizing those and encouraging socialization. And we also want the program to be welcoming for those with dementia. That was a big theme through the whole meeting, is that many people who don't understand those living with dementia or cognitive challenges, that it's not a welcoming environment for them. And that's hard because you start to shy away from events in the community because you don't want to answer questions or you don't want the looks or anything like that. But you want this respite program to be open and just like home. We also discussed, what does that couple hours during the week look like? Is that in the morning? Is that in the afternoon? Is there a need for both? So you're going to see kind of what Wellness and Life Enrichment came up with later in the session. The second important thing we kind of categorized under calendar integration. One of the things that was mentioned in the meeting is, residents who are living with cognitive challenges and independent living are still paying the same monthly fees. And if we add a program, is that going to cost more, or shouldn't that be included within the residency agreement that we are in? So in order to keep cost low, minimum, non-existent of this program, we thought that it was very important for us to evaluate our calendars and our current framework and highlight or start to change and collaborate similar activities that those living with cognitive challenges could participate in at the same time that an active activity was going on. And you'll see kind of how we did that. But if we do it within the current framework, then it's not an additional service. It's just better planning in how to create a calendar. We are also very focused on labeling activities that are dementia or Parkinson friendly. There may be activities that happen outside of our respite programming, but to be able to easily identify those programs is going to be key, because when you're at your wit's end of burnout and you need that maybe an hour just to breathe or to walk away from it, you don't have time to evaluate on a calendar what's happening on campus and wonder if that's going to be appropriate. So what we want to do is really highlight, whether we are bolding it and putting it in purple, or we're putting an asterisk beside it, or we are underlining it. Whatever that is, we are looking at a way to really highlight and make those activities stand out, so that when you're looking at that calendar, your eyes immediately go to what is available at that time. So really trying to streamline that process and make that available to you. And then also, the parallel programming, which I had already discussed. The third is program adaptation. There are many activities that we do on a daily basis that just need to be tweaked a little bit. For example, I'll use wellness as an example. We have active dance on Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 9, but we also have a seated dance for those that may not be able to stand. So we can adapt different activities that are currently happening to a more cognitively friendly activity. Yes, that takes more programming, but if that is what we need to do, then that's what we need to do. And so our programmer minds are really evaluating what our activities are and how those can be altered in order to meet the needs of multiple levels of people versus just those that are active. The other thing that we are trying to do is take those programs and really evaluate skill level safety requirements and those behavioral needs that may need to be met. We're going to talk about the wellness form that everybody received in their email back in March, beginning of April. Marty's going to speak to that, but that's going to help us kind of determine how to alter our programs or how to recommend programming for you as options. The fourth level of our 5-point program is caregiver support expansion. And we have heard that, and that is one that is in really a prototype planning mode. But an online caregiver portal proposed to connect caregivers and foster peer support. This would also allow residents to match with similar situations. You all know, I don't have to tell you, that every walk of dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, anything that can affect your physical mobility or your cognitive ability are all different walks. There are no two people that are the same. However, there are scenarios that are very similar, and you may be in the same stage as somebody else, but because you either don't engage in the community or you feel like you can't engage in the community because you are caregiving, it's hard for you to make those connections. So the goal would be for that portal to open up the doors of socialization and allow you to connect. I think on the 30th when we met, it was surprising for some to see who was present in the audience and in the meeting because they didn't know that they were having the same struggles. And the fact that we were all in one group, it was like, oh, I didn't know. I know that person, but I didn't know they were having the same struggles as me. And so maybe that person could be a connection. So that's what that request for that online portal is. We also want to provide centralized services via Touchtown or other accessible platforms and include support around behavior, identification of dementia stages, family support groups, caregiver events, etc. I will say out of the whole presentation, this is the one that's probably the lightest in follow-up just because Craig is out at a conference this week for our matrix care system for communication. So I will speak a little bit to that before I hand it over to the Crosdale team and where we are with it. We have a prototype platform that we are working with, and we also are building our Touchtown. So my guess is that we're looking at May, June for those two things to be up and running, but we just don't have Craig here to kind of explain where we are with that program and what we're doing with it. And our last point of summary is education and culture shift. So there's a strong desire that we heard of more education across the community, mainly with other independent living residents, I think, in creating a dementia-friendly community. Team members, we do have a training program in with team members, but we can always improve that and in real life scenarios coach through that. And then broader community systems. We want to promote awareness and inclusivity, bring dementia to the forefront as part of a community life, not a diagnosis to hide. I was reading on LinkedIn, and I think Margie actually posted it, but there is a new dementia village for seniors in the Netherlands, and they just launched it. It's one of the first ones that they have, but I was reading through it and just thinking like, wow, it is a skilled facility. However, it looks like a town, and it's very welcoming, and residents are free to be who they are. And I think that that's the ultimate goal that you all are asking for is that, my partner and my wife, my husband, my spouse, they are still a person regardless of their cognitive challenges. And I want to make sure that they are still respected and they're still treated as a person and they're not looked at differently because of something that they, were dealt. And so we want to make sure that we are promoting that and really thinking through that as we design, as we program, and as we interact with each other. And then, that summarizes the last point of shifting the culture to one that is welcoming and supportive. So I do hope that those 5 points really resonate as a reminder for you guys, and that met the actual summary of what we talked about in January. Again, for those that are new, I hope that also encompasses and meets you where you are. But if there are other big things that are trends that the whole group is in agreement with, we can talk about that at the end. Okay, at this time, we are going to transition into Crosdale Village responses. And so you are actually going to hear from our directors on where they are and what they did in their small groups between January and March and today. So we are going to start out with, in person, we're going to start out with Margie Pasher, our Director of Wellness, who will then be joined by Janae Burwell, our Director of Life Enrichment. And then we are going to go to Sarah Stranero, our Director of Home Care and Navigation, to talk about staffing and what does this look like from a caregiver standpoint, How are we ensuring that you're leaving your loved one in good hands with us? And kind of, what our thought process is around that. And then she has a little project for you all as well. And then we are going to transition into the chaplaincy team, who will be facilitating the resident feedback. So that is the roadmap from where we are headed. And at this time, I am going to turn it over to them. Again, I want to say I do apologize for not being able to be here in person. However, I think that technology has allowed us to be a little bit more flexible, and I hope that you can extend grace for my virtual presence versus my in-person presence. But at this time, I'm going to turn it over to them, and they will lead you through the rest of this meeting. And again, thank you for coming. We know that you're facing challenges, and we are here for you, and we want to make sure that this program benefits you and really provides that comfort and that respite that you are desperately needing. Margie?